Am I on the right channel? Sorry, guys. I was having some technical difficulties after the NBA guys finished. All right, cool. Looks like I'm live. Let me get the DraftKings screen up here. How we all doing? Hope everyone's having a good afternoon. Okay, cool. Hey, everyone. I'm Chuck Silver. I'm here with Occupy Fantasy to talk about DraftKings and FanDuel for the Rams Buccaneers showdown tonight. If you guys played NBA today, we got a late scratch on Goga Batadze. He was 56% owned, got scratched after lock. So NBA was just dead today. We're gonna have to make it up on on NFL Showdown. And the main slate was like Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameis Winston. That was kind of fun, right? Appreciate you guys' patience waiting for me to get here today. Yeah, Eli coming out hot with the quick question. Sean Tucker versus Rashad White's going to be a big talking point tonight. You're playing 20 max tonight. With how well Tucker played last week, is it smart to have the same amount or more of White? So the model is going to strongly prefer Sean Tucker tonight, but I do like Rashad White a lot as a pivot. He's still the starter, and let me just pull up that game log. Remember, Bucky Irving is still out, so it's going to be the Sean Tucker Rashad White show. Sean Tucker saw a season high. Sorry, it's still loading. 44% of snaps last week. He hadn't gone over 34% in any other game this season, even with Bucky Irving out. And then Rashad White he played 55% of snaps in week 8. But other than that, 60% that he played last week was the lowest snaps he's played since Bucky Irving's been out. So Rashad was still in there. Sean Tucker just, had a huge game, scored 3 touchdowns. They did end up losing that game, so I'm not sure how much that affects because they're going to prefer Rashad White in the passing game if they're playing from behind, which I kind of expect them to be tonight, which is another reason to be on Rashad White. So we'll have to see how that looks. But the problem is Sean Tucker's like he's so owned. It's kind of hard to get away. And if we do and we go to Rashad White, we're getting huge leverage. But Rashad White is one of the worst plays over on DraftKings model. He's like the lowest guy that has a real rating. He's pretty low over on FanDuel too. He's projected for really low ownership though, and he's more expensive than Sean Tucker, which is the hard part, especially over on FanDuel where I'm sorry, Sean Tucker's only 200 less than Rashad White over on FanDuel, but he's still projected for 3 times the ownership over there, 2 times the ownership of Rashad White on DraftKings. So I don't know if you should have the same amount of Rashad White, but I do like the idea of getting over the field on Rashad White, and then whether you choose to fade Sean Tucker a little bit in your other lineups, that's up to you. Appreciate you, Space Donut. I don't know about secrets. My secret is just getting kind of lucky in opportune moments. Yeah, play Terrence Ferguson. He's going to be our preferred tight end from the Rams tonight. So let me go through the injury report. The big one for the Rams is Tyler Higbee's out. He left the game in the third quarter last time. He is on the IR. So we're going to be looking at Terrence Ferguson, Kobe Parkinson, and Davis Allen. We are going to prefer Terrence Ferguson as our top play here out of the 3. He's also the cheapest over on DraftKings. I believe he was projected for the most ownership, but we don't really care about that. He's the best pass catcher potentially out of the 3. They run a lot of 3 tight end sets. Sean McVay loves this, and so I don't know that they're going to go away from it, even with Higbee out. Maybe they run it at a slightly lower frequency, which would mean more 2 wide receiver sets. So 13 personnel is when you run 3 tight ends, 1 receiver, and 1 running back. And they could still do the 3 tight ends with these 3. The problem is none of them run many routes. I'll mention Ferguson is probably going to run the highest percentage of routes on the snaps he plays. We're not expecting many routes from Parkinson and Davis Allen, not like they're going to come on the field and just run, half of the time. Parkinson's probably going to play most of the snaps. He's not going to run a route though. And then Davis Allen gets targeted enough in the red zone that we still have to have interest in him. I mean, these were both red zone targets. He caught them. This was a red zone target. He caught it, and he had 1 or 2 in the other weeks. But that's what we're looking for when we play Davis Allen. He's got to catch a touchdown, probably. I mean, any of these guys really. But with Ferguson, maybe he has the potential to get there without catching a touchdown. If he gives us he caught a touchdown here, but He only caught 2 passes. He did get 54 yards, and that's part of why we like Ferguson, because he can catch the ball down the field. So he is going to be our preferred play on both sites for from those 3 tight ends. Terrence Ferguson anytime touchdown. I didn't look at the odds for touchdowns today, so I without knowing what they are, I don't know. Have they been bet up? If it hasn't been bet up yet and it's still pretty decent odds, then I don't mind it. But if it's like kind of shorter odds, then probably not going to be that interested. From the Rams, Xavier Smith is questionable. I think he plays. Watch out for the active report in about 40 minutes. I don't think it's going to matter much, even if he's ruled in. And then Joshua Carty, the kicker for the Rams, is still on the active roster. He's in here. He's not marked out. He's probably not going to start tonight. He's inactive. Okay, he was inactive last week, but it was something weird that they had to do with to get Harrison Mevis up there. They called him up from the practice squad. Joshua Carty's also still on the roster, but we're assuming that they're going to go with Mevis again. Now, these fantasy scores are, poor. 6-3. This is a high total game. We have a 49-point total tonight. Rams are 7-point favorites. We've talked about it on stream before. These kind of unknown kickers are just not going to be clicked by the hand builders. And then even maybe people using optimizers are going to knock them down a little bit. We have him projected for pretty healthy ownership for being an unknown kicker, but we still like to take advantage of this, and the model kind of likes him too. So Harrison Mevis, pretty solid kicker option for tonight. From the Tampa Bay side, they are missing their outside linebacker, Hassan Reddick, cornerback Jamel Dean, and they're missing an offensive lineman, Ben Bredesen. Those guys are all starters. Bredesen? Bucky Irving is out, and then Chris Godwin's questionable. They're expecting him to play. So, and I'll mention the cornerback Benjamin Morrison is questionable for Tampa Bay. So with Chris Godwin and this receiver situation over in Tampa Bay, we can look to weeks 4 and 5 when Chris Godwin returned from injury last time. Pull up 2025. So Chris Godwin played 81% of snaps in week 4, 77% in week 5. I'm not saying that we should expect him to play 80% of snaps tonight, but he could have the potential to do it, right? And so if he's going to be in there, he only commanded 3 targets in each of those games, but he's projected for like 6% ownership on DraftKings. His price is a little bit up there, but we do have the value options to kind of fit him in without fading another stud. So I don't mind taking this high risk shot on Chris Godwin when he's under 10% owned. I mean, I'm sorry. He had 3 receptions in each game. He caught 10 targets though, commanded 10 targets in week 4. So just if he has that potential to play the 80% of snaps, I'm going to be pretty into Chris Godwin as a contrarian play, and he's solo on DraftKings. You don't have to play much to get over the field. Ekbuka is a massive stud. He's probably the best play over on Tampa Bay, so there's not much to say about him. We like playing him. Chris mentioned that he kind of likes taking him at captain, and I thought Chris would side with Puka since he's the Puka man, but Puka's very high owned to captain tonight. He's probably the best play on the slate overall, but we'll talk about what we want to do with Puka at captain in a couple minutes. But Ekbuka, top receiving option on the Bucs. Don't really care that Chris Godwin's back. It's not going to affect him too much. The other guys in this receiving room here, Cade Otton, tight end. He plays basically every snap, doesn't run a route on all of them, but I mean, 5, 12 targets the last 2 weeks, 5, 9, 6. Like these are all pretty solid opportunity for him at 5,400. He is popular, but I think he's one of the easier plays to just slide into your flex, especially in smaller fields. Tez Johnson. So with Tez Johnson and Sterling Shepard, I'm not sure who's going to lose the routes to Chris Godwin, because Tez Johnson in weeks 4 and 5 with Chris Godwin in, he played 32 and 36% of snaps. After that, when Chris Godwin's been out, he's been playing 70+% of snaps, and he got above 80 in the past 2 weeks, which was more than Sterling Shepard. So Sterling Shepard's snap count has been pretty consistent all season, even throughout those games with Chris Godwin in. He did lose some snaps in one of them, but he played 60% in that first game when Chris Godwin played the 81% of snaps. Sterling Shepard's been playing mid 60% of snaps, and so I kind of don't think he loses that work. I kind of think he stays the same even with Chris Godwin in, so I'm a little interested in Sterling Shepard. The model isn't. Model's pretty down on him. The model prefers Tez Johnson, who is going to be quite a bit more popular tonight. He's 4K. He's probably shown a little bit more than Sterling Shepard, so maybe they just change up the routes a little bit and get those sets with Egbuka, Tez Johnson, and Chris Godwin on the field. So Tez Johnson is probably going to be the preference between him and Sterling Shepard, but I don't mind Sterling Shepard as a pivot because I think Tez Johnson's routes are a little bit more fragile. This 4K price is a really good price on DraftKings, though. Plus 480 for Terrence Ferguson anytime touchdown. I don't know. I didn't see like the percent that he is to score a touchdown or what share of a touchdown he's supposed to have tonight, and so it sounds a little bit too short for me, but I mean I don't hate it. I'm playing him a ton in DFS, hoping he scores a touchdown. So Godwin's supposed to be on a snap limit. All right, let me double check that. Has Mevis kicked any actual field goals, or has he just taken extra points? Yeah, he hasn't taken a single field goal, just extra points. So we'll have to see. They just don't trust any kicker right now. I mean, this game they probably didn't need a field goal. This one they could have. I'm not really knocking him for it. I will mention his ownership is already kind of up there, so I'm kind of hoping he comes in lower than projected. If he comes in at the 30+% that we have him projected for, then that would not be as good of a play than if he was closer to 20. Yeah, it's hard to knock him for being on the snap count because anyone on the field can score a touchdown. I know that's a pretty lame excuse, but he's so low owned. I don't really care. He's going to be targeted while he's out there, and no one's playing Chris Godwin today, so I think he's still fine. Rams just haven't kicked field goals. Mevis was 20 for 21 in the UFL. Thank you for that info, Annie. It's pretty good to know. So he's capable. They just haven't had the opportunity, maybe. The team will be mindful of his workload. Yeah, I've heard that before, and he played 80% of snaps, so I'm not really. Again, it's again, how do you quantify it? Is it minus 20%? Is it minus 15%? It could lead to making mistakes. If you're worried about it, you can just avoid playing him. He's low owned. And his price is at a point where he has to have a good game to be in the winning lineup, unless there's just no points scored in this game. Maybe scares people off. Yeah, he's already projected for only 6% on DraftKings, 20% on FanDuel. Spent a lot of time talking about Chris Godwin, but I don't know. He's going to end up scoring a touchdown now that we got so far into it right now. Let's talk about the Rams a little bit. So Blake Corum is very popular tonight. Let me pull this up. Blake Corum projected for only 1% captain ownership on DraftKings, but 32% in the flex. He's only 3K. This price is kind of a mistake for the opportunity that he's been getting. He hasn't produced the fantasy scores that we would like for, considering how popular he's going to be at this 3K. This is optimizers giving him a decent projection and trying to jam in Puka Nacua with Matthew Stafford, Emeka Egbuka, and Blake Corum fits. So the snap counts over the last few weeks, it's interesting because the Rams have been, hold on, let me just double check I have the information correct. The Rams won 5 games in a row. Is that right? Yeah, the Rams have won the last 5 games in a row, and only one of them was close last week against Seattle. Blake Corum has seen, 30+% of snaps in each of the last 4 weeks. Kyron's workload has been 60, 70, 60, 70% of snaps. Blake Corum's pretty much playing the rest. They've ran a couple 2 running back sets, but that's not something we're really considering today. Don't care about that. My point is that Blake Corum has been getting some work when, the Rams have a healthy lead. The model does like him. He's projected for heavy ownership. Sites all around the industry are projecting him for a good enough score to get in a bunch of your lineups. I kind of don't like it. I think this is a guy that we can kind of get away from. We already have Terrence Ferguson as our preferred value play today. We can pay $2,400 more and get to K to Otten. Let's say we're running Puka Nacua at captain too, so we're using up like a ton of salary. We'll get Stafford in the flex. We can still fit Ferguson, Kate Otten, Emeka Egbuka, have 4,900 left to get to Rams defense or Mevis. This is pretty easy. I don't think we need to put anything with Blake Corum in here to upgrade anyone. I mean, if we wanted to do that, I don't want to take Terrence Ferguson out of our first dummy. We'll take Kate Otten out. I'll just show you what it looks like with Blake Corum, 2,700 left instead of or that shouldn't have been Cardi, sorry, that should have been Mevis, but could get to Rashad White, who I like as a pivot. Also another guy that you're kind of paying up to be contrarian. But I don't know, it just feels a lot better with paying a little bit more for Cade Otton. And then I'll also mention Kyron Williams is the top overall play on FanDuel today. He is the second play over on DraftKings, and he's projected for very low ownership. Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua number 1 on DraftKings, Devontae Adams number 2, Kyron Williams 3, Emeka, Cade, Sean Tucker, and then Matt Stafford. Over on FanDuel, Kyron's number 1 with Puka number 2. Sean Tucker's number 3, so Sean Tucker looks pretty good today. But Kyron Williams only projected for 8% captain ownership, 3% MVP ownership, and then he's 18% in the flex on DraftKings, 27% on the flex on FanDuel. The models thinks he's a really good play. Field's not really getting there. They're preferring Puka. I'm not saying you have to fade Puka to get to a Kyron. I mean, I wonder if we can make this work with a Puka at captain. We'll get Kyron and Matt Stafford, Ferguson in the flex. It still leaves us 5K per player. We can get to Mevis and Rams defense. Oh, that's 6 Rams. I did this earlier when I was building my other dummy. I just had 6 Rams in there too. I mean, you could go to McLaughlin, a little awkward against the Rams defense, but it's fine. Could leave some salary on the table since Puka Nacua is like 36% projected at captain ownership. Get to Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard. Maybe you go down to someone like Jordan Whittington. You could run the 2 running backs with Blake Corum and Kyron Williams. Wouldn't be doing that a ton though. Not sure that I'm going to set the rule to prevent it, but I just don't want a ton of my lineups to have both running backs. I also don't want a ton of my lineups to have 2 tight ends from the Rams. I'm not setting the rule because I have 150 lineups tonight, and I'm okay with getting 2 tight ends in some lineups, but I just don't want it to end up where the builder's just giving me 2 tight ends in every single lineup because they're so easy to slide in. So, like Kyron over Corum, but Corum's a chalk, so if you want to get away from Kyron, it seems okay. I'll just mention he is at the top of the model. He's low owned. This is an opportunity to get Kyron at very low captain ownership. He's kind of direct leverage off of Puka. And as for Puka, he's seen a lower snap share the last few weeks, but they've been involved in blowouts. And I mentioned they're running a lot of 13 personnel too. So Puka, I mean, the last 3 weeks, 49% of snaps, 52%, 67 last week when it was a closer game against the Seahawks. No reason to think he can't get back up to 80, 90% if this is a very competitive game, especially down Tyler Higbee. Maybe they're not going to run as many 3 tight end sets. So Puka Nacua, I mean, he's a top play everywhere. I'm not going to spend too much time on him. It's just about if you want to fade him or if you want to lock him at captain MVP, I think it's okay to just get with the field too. I don't think you have to take an extreme measure on him today. It just, because he's so high, he is the best play on the slate, but because he's projected for so much of the captain ownership, we're just getting such a discount on everyone else. Matt Stafford, 19% captain ownership. Emeka Egbuka, 10%. Devontae Adams, 9%. That's a really good pivot too. Model has them very similar over on DraftKings, Devontae and Puka Nacua. And Devontae Adams has more red zone targets than the rest of the receiving room combined. The tight ends get a fair amount of red zone targets, but from the receivers, Devontae has 24. I think Puka has 8 on the season. Puka's only missed 1 game. So Devontae, yeah, red zone target for Matt Stafford. We're going to be looking at that. And then Jordan Whittington, I didn't mention him much in the plug, and he has the minimum model rating projected for 13% ownership on DraftKings at 2,800. I don't think he's a better play than the tight ends. It's just a matter of he could they could just switch up the sets they've been running to where he's getting on the field now because they're down Tyler Higbee and they don't want to run the same tight end sets with the 3 tight ends they have available. Why is everything blurry? How blurry? Well, sorry about that. I had some trouble starting the stream due to the NBA guys needing a little more time. I'll try to make sure that's better for last week. Sorry. Oh, we're good? All right. Thanks for letting me know, though. You can't help but want to play a ton of Godwin. I like getting over the field on Godwin. I don't want my whole night to depend on him or anything, though. So if you're only making 3 lineups, you can play Godwin in one of them, and for what it's worth, you're way over the field. He's in 33% of your lineups. If you're playing a 20 max, I mean, you could play Godwin in 3 or 4 of them. That's pretty far over the field too, 2 to 3x the field. You're done with NBA. It's frustrating. I don't even know what I turned in today. I was like scrambling to start the NFL stream, and I know I had 70% Goga because I capped him at 70. I would have had 100 if I didn't. Thank goodness. Adams is on the field more in 13. Yeah, that makes sense because he plays a lot more snaps than Puka. So we'll have to see how they adjust. I know that Sean McVay really likes this 13 personnel stuff, though. So they're going to try it. And if it works, maybe they'll keep doing it for the game. If it doesn't work, maybe they'll get away from it. But yeah, so I mean, the whole point of me saying all that is that I think Puka is a great play. I'm not worried about his snaps being down. I would be very surprised if they didn't go back up, assuming this is a somewhat competitive game. You know, if they Rams take an early 2 or 3 touchdown lead, then maybe they just keep it simple, run the clock. But other than that, really like Puka captain tonight. Talked about the tight ends, talked about the running backs. All right, let's get into some lineups. So Puka, I think he's the best captain option. It's just really awkward because of his high ownership on DraftKings. Now, we have enough low owned guys, and I've mentioned a few pivots. Like the big pivots are Rachaad White over Sean Tucker. The model's saying don't do that, but I'm saying it's okay. Model's smarter than me, so trust who you want. But I think it's good to mix in Rachaad White pivots like this, where it's not super certain that Sean Tucker is going to take over the work like he did last week. And Rachaad White still played more snaps. He's still more involved in the passing game. So there's a lot of positives to want to get to Rachaad White too. Play Sean Tucker. I'm playing a ton of Sean Tucker. I probably have more Sean Tucker in my exposures than Rachaad White, but what I'm saying is get over the field on Rachaad White, not necessarily fade Sean Tucker. And then, yeah, for the Rams, I mean, Kyren is like a huge pay up. This is, at least these two are similarly priced. Kyren and Blake Corum are just in different worlds of pricing today, so that's a little bit more awkward of a pivot. But I mean, you could just play Kyren and then Terrence Ferguson and fill out the rest of the lineup with something like that. I mentioned Tez Johnson versus Sterling Shepard. I think Sterling Shepard is a better play than the industry is projecting, but everyone has Tez Johnson running more routes today, so maybe it's Tez Johnson day. So how do we get different with Puka captain? Some guys projected for under 20% ownership in the flex on DraftKings are Kyren Williams, Rachaad White, Whittington, Shepard, Ramsey, Godwin, Buxty. So let's get Stafford in here. We're mostly going to want Stafford in the flex, and we have Puka Nacua at captain. I already put Rachaad White in one. Let's try one with Sterling Shepard and see what kind of studs we can get up to. We'll try Parkinson in this one since its salary is a little different. See if that changes the construction in any way. Baker. Can't quite do that. So you can't jam in 4 studs with these guys. Even if we came down on these two, we couldn't get to a Emeka Egbuka. Leaves us 4,900. We already have Sterling Shepard. Pretty close to getting to Kate Otten, though. If we go to Terrence Ferguson, we can do that. This is not terribly different. This is kind of chalky, actually, except for Sterling Shepard. That would be the difference here. Not sure it's enough in like a large field tournament. We're only leaving $300 on the table, but what if we get away from Kate Otten? Yeah, leaving 1,100 with the Rams kicker. Could go to. I mean, Rams D is going to be pretty low owned. The defenses have been some of the best low owned plays. Was it last Sunday that just smashed one of the defenses? We built such a good dummy on stream with the Eagles D and Jake Elliott. So maybe something with we're going to be 100 away from Mevis here with the Rams defense and the Rams kicker. And I mean, we're really hoping we need 2 things from the Rams kicker. We need him to come in under 30% owned, and we need him to kick a field goal today. I mean, Kyren Williams is a little bit awkward, but let's look at something not Puka captain. We don't have to get as weird. Devontae Adams, I think, is a pretty good pivot, so we'll fade Puka in this lineup. Matthew Stafford. Let's see if we can fit in Egbuka and Baker Mayfield in here. Baker Egbuka leaves us 2,150. We'll just default to Terrence Ferguson, our favorite value play. I mentioned earlier, I don't hate playing Parkinson and Allen and Ferguson, 2 of these guys in the same lineup. We're going to try not to, but this would be an okay way to fill out the lineup. Maybe you would consider just playing Matthew Stafford at captain in this case, since we have 3 of his pass catchers in the lineup. Would prefer not to get to Parkinson if we can, though. Let's kind of awkward if we don't play Egbuka, but let's say we fade Egbuka. We'll go with Sean Tucker. It leaves us 5,900. We can get to Cade Auden. We can get to a Tampa Bay kicker, Rams defense. That leaves us some options. And I think if you're playing, maybe not Cade Auden, but if you're playing one of these guys, especially the Rams defense, that should be the low-owned guy. That's enough to get you a little bit different because the rest of the lineup is kind of chalk. I mean, Devontae Adams is sub 10% captain ownership, so that's pretty good. You don't have to do as much. And with this, we're still leaving 1,100, so this would be a pretty great large field lineup. You don't get the Blake Corum love? Yeah, I don't either. Because like I talk about on the show, we care about opportunity over performance, right? And Blake Corum has gotten slightly more opportunity. He hasn't performed, but I don't think that opportunity is written in stone. I really think that there's a good chance he loses some snaps back to Kyron tonight. And if he like even if he puts up 5.8, he's not winning you a tournament unless the rest of the game gets kind of wacky and you just need a salary in there. But I'm all aboard fading Blake Corum. I'll mention the model really likes him. I imagine that's playing off some of the recent work he's been getting, but I'm on board with fading Blake Corum. Really like getting up to Kyron if you can find that extra 7K. Goga 53%. Yeah, man, it's just so disgusting. NBA disaster today. Took down 2 big tournaments yesterday. That was nice. I thought I would follow it up today. It's looking unlikely, but we'll see. Let's build one on FanDuel. Let's see. Yeah, this is a decent dummy I build over here with a Kyron MVP. We're a little more interested in running Kyron at MVP on FanDuel versus Captain on DK. And on FanDuel, we're getting Kyron Williams at... Like, Kyron Williams is projected for 3% ownership. What are we doing? I understand he's, very expensive after Puka. He's the second most expensive player on the slate. But 3% ownership for Kyron Williams is probably a little bit too low. Maybe he comes in closer to 4 or 5%. It's not really that much of a difference. Still very interested in getting to Kyron. I'll mention Matthew Stafford is projected for 36% MVP, Baker Mayfield for 24%, and Puka for 21%. I'm not going to tell you to fade all 3 of those guys because that would probably be crazy, but a lot of other lower-owned options, Devontae Adams at 7%, Egbuka at 6%, Sean Tucker at 3%, Kyron Williams at 3%. I don't know that I'd go deeper than those guys at MVP on FanDuel. Maybe you could consider like a Terrence Ferguson. I'll build out a Terrence Ferguson lineup and just see what that looks like. But we're keeping a pretty tight MVP pool over on FanDuel. And outside of those guys, I didn't mention it, but for DraftKings, I have Cade Auden in my captain pool. I think I had Tez Johnson in my captain pool too. Not really getting much outside of those guys though, other than the top plays. Or I should say after the top plays, those are the only like low owned captains I'm getting to. I don't want to run these 2 tight ends though. Like Jordan Whittington could slide in there, but it's kind of the same thing. Ryan Miller's probably going to lose his snaps tonight with Chris Godwin back. We're just going to have to take something out here. We'll take Puka out since we're running Kyron. Maybe we'll put Devontae in here. Leaves us 7,400. Man, Tez Johnson 7,400 is insane after seeing he's 4K over on DraftKings. This is like a contrarian pay up, I guess. Doesn't seem great, though. This wouldn't be too bad with a Rams defense in there. Trying to see if maybe we could fit in the kicker, but I don't know. You could play around with it a little bit. Like Kyron's 3% owned. The Rams are very low owned. This is probably already enough. You don't have to try and get any funkier than this. We're leaving $600 and we have 2 low owned plays already. Just because I'm curious what this would look like, I'm going to see Terrence Ferguson. We'll jam in Puka, Baker, Stafford, Buka. Leaves us 9,800. Yeah, I mean, we could get to Rashad White, leave the 1,200. Kind of takes away a little bit from the Terrence Ferguson MVP, though, if we're leaving that much on the table. If we take out Egbuka, I don't know. I want to run Devontae and Puka with a different MVP that's not Matt Stafford, but it could be an idea. Kyron Williams, 12K. Tez Johnson. Like, this is kind of a disgusting salary range over on FanDuel. Wouldn't be surprising if one of these guys was in the winning lineup tonight, though, so take your pick. If I had to choose, is it a shootout or defense night? I think it's the Rams shootout and the Rams defense night. I think the Rams score a ton of points tonight. These showdowns on Sunday nights especially have made my job so hard because it sounds like I'm just incorrect on a lot of stuff, but I'm right about, the opportunities and the rates and stuff. It's just these games are playing out in the most disgusting way possible, and they're not even entertaining games, even if you're not playing DFS from just a fan point of view. 49-point total. We've had high totals on basically every primetime game, and they've all gone under. But I'm still just going to lean towards the shootout option. Who would I play if I was playing a single line for cash? So cash, I am skipping tonight. I outlined this in the plug. It's really hard to play cash tonight because our preferred build at Occupy probably fades Puka Nacua. Like we would want to run something like Matthew Stafford, Baker, Kyron, and then I guess Sean Tucker, since he's a little bit cheaper and he's more popular, leaves us 3,400 per player. We can get to Terrence Ferguson. This is going to be our cash value play, Ferguson, and we can get to the Rams kicker or Rams defense. Probably prefer the Rams kicker, but they're both fine. The problem is we're fading Puka Nacua, and there isn't really a pivot that we could make here that would fit under our cash guidelines if we tried to jam Puka in there. So I'm just not going to play cash tonight. But this is I don't play cash, so I don't know if I should be getting Puka in there. But just from our Occupy lineup building, guidelines for cash, this is what it would be, and it's basically the same thing over on FanDuel too. Just a little bit awkward. Is it smart in 20 max to have Godwin in a lineup or two with each captain on DK? I think that's a little bit too much micromanaging. I usually don't go that deep. If you are the type to like go through and like check every single lineup in your 20 max, I think that's a little bit too restrictive overall on your set. You're just your night's going to be tied to Godwin in a big way, which isn't something that we're trying to do. We want to have our night tied to Godwin like in a little way. The field's only going there 6%. We can get there 10%, 15%. We're way over the field. If you're going through each lineup, I would say you could do something where put Godwin with the captains that it makes a little bit more sense in certain, in different game scripts. Like, let's say you were running that Puka Nacua captain. This is a really good spot to get Godwin in because this kind of assumes that Puka is going to at least catch a bunch of passes early in the game. The Rams take a lead, and then Chris Godwin, maybe he can get up to that 10 targets that he saw earlier in the season. We already have our low owned play for the highest owned captain. We'll just slide in Terrence Ferguson. We'll get Matthew Stafford in there. We'll get Baker in there. It only leaves us 1,700. Probably can't get Baker, so that's where the awkwardness comes. I guess you don't have to play Baker with Godwin, but we would prefer to. And then the other thing is you would consider fading Matt Stafford, but I don't know if we want to fade Matt Stafford tonight either with Puka captain. That's one option, I guess, since Puka's so high owned. Another way to get a little bit different if you want to play the high owned captain, don't play his quarterback. I guess we could see what that looks like. Baker Mayfield leaves us 6,250. I mean, we could just go Sean Tucker and then K. Otten or one of the kickers, the defenses. Maybe we like this play from behind angle and we actually go with Rachaad White instead of Sean Tucker. We can still get to the exact same players. And I think I like this a little bit more. Maybe it's a little awkward because now we need two low on guys to do something in Godwin and Rachaad White, but this is one way to do it if you want to run Puka captain. You emailed DK for your entry feedback. They're not doing that, dude. There was a day on FanDuel last week for NBA. It was on Tuesday. CSVs weren't uploading, and they have not refunded me yet. I've talked to them every day. They started just instantly telling me my case is still under review. It's the longest it's ever taken. What do I think is best? Both defenses in a line or both kickers in a line? I don't think either of them are great, but it's probably both kickers. You called the FBI on Orlando? Let me know how that goes, dude. Yeah, I'm pretty upset with them today, too. The top 3 cheap value plays on DraftKings. Terrence Ferguson's number 1. I will mention Parkinson and Davis Allen, our 2 other value plays. Was Davis Allen pulling ownership? Davis Allen's only projected for 5% ownership on DraftKings, but 20% on FanDuel, which I kind of understand because he's only $200 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, but It's just him being at 2,000 is a lot different, or him being at 1,800 is a lot different than like all the other price differences on the slate from DraftKings versus FanDuel. So other than the tight ends, I mean, just going by like the model and the chalk, it's Blake Corum. If you want some, I mean, Tez Johnson's not super low owned. I think he was like 27% owned before the slate started. He was projected for, so that's probably okay too. And then I don't mind Sterling Shepard as a punt. Cade Otton, I don't think Cade Otton's getting enough attention tonight. Like he's 30 and 40% owned, so maybe that sounds dumb, but I think a lot of people are going to try to find this, random touchdown from Johnson Shepard, one of the tight ends, maybe Jordan Whittington, when you could just pay a couple hundred more and get to Cade Otton. And yeah, he could definitely burn us too, but his opportunity has been there. Who scores for Tampa Bay? I sure hope it's Cade Otton and Rachaad White at this point. Do I like Ferguson or Whitmore captain? Did I run? All right, I ran a Ferguson MVP lineup. We'll run Ferguson captain real quick here, and then I'm going to get out of here. I mean, what could we do with this? Puka, Stafford, Baker, Egbuka leaves us 4,800 to get to, any of these three, or Rams or Mevis, I guess. Buccaneers defense is in there, Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, but I don't know. If you run this lineup, you're leaving 1,200. Maybe it's a little bit different. And Terrence Ferguson's projected for 1% captain ownership, but I don't love it. It's viable though. You could easily see a scenario where Terrence Ferguson does whatever it takes for him to be captain, whether it's catching a couple passes, catching a touchdown. Puka goes off, Stafford has a good game, Baker and Egbuka have good games, and then just fill in the lineup with whoever has the highest score that fits. Whitmore at captain, I'm not really. Wait, Whitmore? Oh, Whittington. Yeah, Whittington at captain. I'm not really even interested in playing him at the flex. I doubt I'll get any captain ownership. I'll probably have just a couple percent of him at the flex. He's not like 0% owned. He was 12% projected ownership on DraftKings. Go Batadze. Yeah, dude, that guy, he's going to be on the slate again, and we're going to play him next time. Tez and Shepard fit with Puka captain, Stafford and Williams. I don't hate it, but it's kind of awkward. If we get both of these guys in the flex here, no Baker though. So this would probably be a different lineup if you want to run that high on Puka captain. $3,900. Yeah, just punt on whichever of these value plays you like. Because the problem is, even if let's say you want to play, well, we have Kyron, so no Blake Corum, but let's say you want to get Parkinson in here instead of Ferguson. You have $1,500. You can just upgrade one of these guys to the kicker, the defense. You could even get to McLaughlin for once. We haven't gotten to McLaughlin at all, but you could even do that, which I think would be a little bit better than running Tez and Sterling Shepard. If you're hand building anyway, I would rather go that direction. Just make sure I touched on everything I wanted to get to. Yeah, the defenses might go overlooked. Like, they've been in the winning lineup every single slate that we've talked about for the last 2 months, but no one wants to play them still. I'm more interested in Rams defense than I am Tampa Bay, but like, they seem fine. I think we should be over the field on both of them. Not as much over the field on Tampa Bay, but I'm very interested in getting over the field on Rams defense. Remember that a lot of these value plays are fragile. I broke down the scenarios that some of them just don't get the opportunity that we're expecting, which would mean they're misprojected across the industry, which means they're overowned. So if you can get away from a little bit, just mix it up a little bit more. I think that's a good thing on this slate. I do think it's a good high risk slate. We have some pivots, but it's pretty high variance. So I'm not really upping my volume tonight. I wouldn't recommend it. And then I wanted to mention that the preferred build by the field tonight is going to actually be Rams 5-1. That was what I had projected to be the highest owned build, followed by Rams 4-2, and then 3-3 with Rams captain. So we have enough value plays on the Bucks to kind of not have to do that. I mean, we could run 3-3s with Rams captain. I showed you guys enough ways to get different. You could do it with the 5-1s too. I showed you guys enough to get different, even if you run the Puka captain. I do think it's a little bit easier if you run, say, Devontae Adams captain or Kyron Williams captain. You don't have to worry about as much in the flex. You can just kind of play, the best plays. Terrence Ferguson. Maybe that's a little bit awkward, but you guys can figure it out. No Baker. We'll fade one of the quarterbacks. I guess we'll go Rams defense here. I mean, this is already so different. You have Kyron, a captain with Rams D, Devontae, no Puka. This is already massive leverage. You could do whatever you want with the last spot and you're good. And either any of these guys, like Godwin or Rashad White, if you slide them in, like you're looking at a solo takedown now. You could put Sean Tucker, probably the safer play, but we don't care about safe on the show. We're trying to take down first place. How many Rams DST and 20 max? When I did my run earlier, I think I was around 20%. We have them projected for 9% on DraftKings and 10% on FanDuel. And so, I don't know, 4 or less. I probably wouldn't want much more than 4. You could, if that's the route you want to go, if that fits in with how you're constructing your projections or, your overall lineups tonight. But I don't think you have to go crazy with it. Like 20%, 2x the field would be a healthy amount. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Look out for that active list that's going to come out in like 5 minutes. Maybe it just came out, actually. Let me check before I sign off. I have to edit my lineups. The next NBA game starts in 3 minutes. Xavier Smith is out. It's not going to affect anything. I didn't really talk about him anyway. Maybe it's a couple extra snaps for Whittington, but we already think that he has a potential to play a little bit more since Tyler Higbee's out. So appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope gave good information today. Good luck tonight.